Hey guys, I'm David Mitchell, founder and CEO of TRADEway. What if God himself gave you a blueprint for how to handle your money? Well, the Bible is a practical book. Let's dive in and see what it has to say about wealth, about risk, about leverage, and about investing, and uncover how trading in the stock market can be a powerful tool for moving towards your biggest goals. We're so happy you're here. This is The Word on Investing. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. We're so glad to have you back with us today. And today I have an extremely special treat for you. I have Sharon Lechter on with me. She is an international keynote speaker on all kinds of topics, mostly about financial literacy, leadership. She helps corporations with things like that, entrepreneurship, wealth building, all these kinds of topics. And she's also a New York Times best-selling author of over 23, did you hear me? 23 books, including Rich Dad, Poor Dad. How many of you guys have heard of that one? But most of you have read that one. Over 30 million books sold, and I'm not even sure that's a current figure, but amazing career in that arena. She's creator and owner of several thriving businesses, including teaming up with world-class brands like Disney, Time Life, Warner Brothers. She's built the largest personal finance brand on the planet with the Rich Dad as co-founder and CEO of that. Served 2 U.S. presidents as an advisor on the topic of financial literacy. She's been featured in Forbes, The Street, Yahoo, Chicago Tribune, Fox, CNN, Oprah, and many more shows. And of course, The Word on Investing, our show. And Sharon, welcome to our show. We are so happy to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, David. I am delighted to be with you, and I appreciate the fact that you put this information together for your listeners. It's wonderful.
Well, you bet. Basically, the main topic we like to teach with TRADEway is the whole concept of entrepreneurism, and more specifically, how to form a family business so that you teach the skill sets to the children and then the grandchildren, and you pass those skill sets down, and you now have the potential to create generational wealth because you're giving your kids and your grandkids a competitive edge that way. That's kind of been lost in this country, and we're big proponents of the idea of the family business, and we use stock trading in the U.S. stock and options market as one type of business that's actually, believe it or not, one of the easier types of businesses to start and be able to teach your kids and grandkids. So we kind of focus on that at TRADEway. But that's kind of what we are into, Sharon, really heavy on the entrepreneur side of re-educating America, because it's what made America great, and America needs that again. And what you do is such a fit with what we do. In fact, you were instrumental in even starting the movement of America coming back to entrepreneurship. So first thing I want to do is thank you for that. But let me say this, you started out your career as a CPA, and then you became an author in addition to that. So you had to have both sides of your brain working. Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Oh, I did, David. In fact, it started much earlier than that. I grew up in a house, little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. We had rental properties that at 10 years old, I had to scrub out bathrooms between tenants. We had orange groves in Central Florida, and I swore I would never be an entrepreneur. I wanted to become a sophisticated professional. So I was the first generation in my family to go to college, and one of the very first women in public accounting. I got my first job in Atlanta, Georgia. I thought I was hot stuff, and enjoyed the single life. But then about the ripe old age of 25, I realized I was working a lot of time and a lot of hours for someone else. I had a salary, but it was like, this is crazy. All of a sudden, my parents started looking a whole lot smarter. That does happen, doesn't it?
It does happen.
But I had a client ask me to leave public accounting and go with him into a company that was buying out of bankruptcy. I still remember going back to my condo in Atlanta with the old yellow legal pad. This was before PCs and before cell phones, doing the pros and cons. Mm-hmm. It didn't help me a bit. I could argue both sides pretty equally, just like both sides of the brain. And my hand kind of took off across the top of the page, David, and it said, why not? Why not do something different? Why not take that path less traveled? Why not solve a problem or serve a need? When you talk about entrepreneurship being the backbone of our country, successful businesses solve problems and serve needs. And I think we have a few of those today.
Yes.
And so It ended up, I made the decision, why not? And I still use that philosophy today in my life. But that particular decision ended up being the worst business decision of my life, even as recently as now. And yet Napoleon Hill says out of every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. Well, I got up there and within a few short weeks found all kinds of corruption in the company we were buying. I was scared to death I was going to lose my CPA certificate. So I ran away for a couple of weeks and came back and knew I had to leave. And there was a young man in my office who was there on the litigation, represented somebody on the other side. And we shook hands and was love at first sight. It was Michael Lechter, and we've been married 40 years. And so my worst business decision granted me the opportunity to have my greatest life decision. And that started our 40-year marriage, and we've had 3 kids, 4 grandkids, and I haven't looked back. Started a woman's magazine, then my kids didn't like to read. I met the inventor of the first talking children's book. The books have sound strips down the side. And all along, I was able to use what I learned as a CPA. Certainly, I saw a lot of companies that were very successful, how they did it. Probably learn more from all the companies that weren't quite so successful. And I was able to apply that in my own endeavors. And we were able to grow the technology for the talking books by aligning with other brands, because we had this technology that kids didn't have electronics back then. So we didn't know how we were going to get parents to trust us. And so we aligned with companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics. And by doing that, we immediately had the trust of the parents. So that company exploded globally from 1 to 9 to 23, on our way to 52 million in sales. And that's when we sold the company. And that we moved here to Arizona. I've been here 31 years. And so it's been an incredible journey. The following year, in 1992, our son went off to college, left in September, came home in December in credit card debt. We didn't even know he had a credit card. He'd gotten to college and they had this table saying free pizza, free money, another table, free t-shirt, free money.
Yeah.
He had a really good time his first semester in college. And then it was time to pay the piper. And so that he came home in December of 92 asking us to basically bail him out. We said no. Haven't always made the right decisions as parents, but that one was. And it took him 7 years to get out of debt and to repair his credit. And he's as passionate as I am today about financial literacy. But that was December of 1992, David. And I really dedicated the rest of my life to financial literacy, financial education. Started working with the school systems. A few years later, I get a call from my husband saying he met this guy that had on flip-flops and a Bermuda shirt who had this idea for a board game. And that was Robert Kiyosaki. And I met him at the first beta test for the board game Cash Flow. And because I was so adamant in teaching people the importance of mind building and creating assets, I loved the game because it facilitated that education. So I volunteered to help him. And in that process, he told me he was going to charge $200. That was pretty pricey for a board game back in 96. And I told him he should write a brochure. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. And as partners, we wrote 15 books together. That brochure that we wrote for the board game was actually Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Wow.
So we went from that over the 10-year period. We ended up in over 100 countries, over 50 languages. 2007, I decided that we were no longer aligned in what we wanted with the company. And I made the decision to leave at the height of our success. And I tell everybody who's listening right now, sometimes you have to close a door in your life so other doors of opportunity will open. And as you've shared, I had the opportunity to work with President Bush and President Obama and advising them on financial literacy. I wouldn't have gotten that phone call from President Bush had I still been a rich dad. And then in March of 2008, I got the call from Don Green, the executive director of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, asking me to help reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill. And so I've done 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil, Think and Grow Rich for Women, and Success in Something Greater. It's been an incredible relationship and an incredible opportunity to not have just built the largest personal finance brand, but then to step in the world's personal development brand, the largest one. And so this year, I'm excited. I'm releasing a new book called Exit Rich that I'm doing with Inc. magazine, helping people understand how to take their successful business, like you're talking about generational businesses, successful business, making it sustainable, scalable, and saleable.
Awesome.
Sell it or not, you set it up through the system so that it can stay in your family for generations, exactly what you're talking about.
That is so cool. I'm going to pick that one up. So I want a signed copy of that one.
Absolutely.
Well, that is such an amazing background, and I really appreciate you starting sort of at the beginning and moving through that. A couple of words and phrases caught my mind I want to touch on before I go to another thought. One is, we may have listeners out there today. Some of you guys are just now even thinking about what would it be like to be entrepreneurial? Is that even possible for me? And you might have missed a couple of key things. And one was, you said, why not? That little question is something that our listeners, if you guys out there would just learn to ask that, it could change your whole life. Because you know what you've been taught to ask? Well, maybe not a question, but you've been taught this. Anything that looks good is probably not real. That's what you've been taught. And that's just simply not true. I had to teach that to one of my sons-in-laws once, Sharon, when he was still a very young man and riding in the car with me. And he said, if it looks too good to be true, it's probably not real. And I said, man, don't ever say that. And he said, why? And I said, well, how do you think it looks that God would give his own son, Jesus, and let him die on a cross for your sins when you don't deserve it and rise again and be able to save your soul? Does that look too good to be true? Yes, sir. And I said, do you believe it? Yes, sir. Then sometimes things that are too good to be true are true. So keep that attitude. But you made that much simpler than I made it with him when you just said, hey, what's wrong with asking why not? Why not try it? So I love that. And then secondly, you pointed out that your first entrepreneurial effort was a failure. Now, I've taught passages out of Scripture where it shows clearly that the Lord is going to bring that sort of thing to happen in an entrepreneur's life on purpose, because he will always bring trouble and trials to make sure you're not a quitter, to make sure that you'll persevere, and to teach you that it's not you that's going to be successful by yourself. You have to do it together with him and all those kinds of things. But to hear you say, we look at the success you've had. It's so great that you pointed out that the first one was a failure. And had you quit, where would you be today, right? So you didn't quit. And that's such a great lesson. So I want our listeners to pick at least those two things out of your story. And, failure is always, like you said so well, it's a stepping stone to the next open door. Right? And don't ever look at a closed door as a bad thing. That's how the Lord leads you to the next open door. Well, you answered my next question was, did you come from an entrepreneurial background? And you did. Your parents were both entrepreneurs. In fact, you saw some of the hardships of that, decided you just try a paycheck, and then it took you a while to figure out, well, that's not necessarily secure. And certainly I can't leverage that. And you can't trade your time for $1 and create wealth. And you knew that because you're a CPA. That, along with other things, spurred you to move towards this entrepreneurial life. Now, I want to go back to this rich dad, poor dad concept, because a lot of our listeners may not have read the book. So many people did, but it's a book about one way of life where you go out, you get an education, you work for a boss, and you trade your hours for dollars, versus a different way of life where you become an entrepreneur. And so let me just ask you this in your words. How does that understanding of the difference between those two ways of life, how can that help you create wealth later? Once you see that there's a big difference between those two ways of life, what kind of potential does that give you? And discuss that with me a little bit.
Well, I'm going to start with another saying of mine, because it's for those of people that are listening that are still employees. It's really not what you do for your paycheck. It's what you do with your paycheck that counts. And you may not think you're an entrepreneur, but you are. Your personal financial statement, your family's financial statement is your business. And how are you doing as CEO of your personal business? All right. And it's so important to take control, because when it comes to money either controls you or you control your money. Mm-hmm. When we talk about mindset, David, so many times as people can't get out of this scarcity mindset. And a lot of that is created when we're children, where we hear things like, we can't afford it, money doesn't grow on trees, pinch your pennies, save for a rainy day. So you grow up hearing this money negative, money negative, money negative. No wonder we end up with this scarcity mindset. And since we're not teaching about it in school, hence, you get sayings like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because that's where you're learning it about. And so it's so important to stop yourself on the choice of the words that you use. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, which is negative, and you want to kind of close down and hide away, retrain your mouth and say, how can I afford it? when you just hear that sentence, you want to answer it. It triggers that entrepreneurial spirit in your brain, and you want to find a way to do that. Same thing with your children. Don't tell them you can't afford something. Ask them, Johnny, Mary, Susie, if you really want that, how can you afford it? And they will get so creative about ways they can earn the money to get what they want. And in the process, you will see their self-confidence increase right before your eyes. So entrepreneurship, the second book in the Rich Dad series is the Cash Flow Quadrant.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it talks about the 4 ways we earn money and the mindsets. The left side of the quadrant is employee and self-employed. Most business owners who think they're business owners really own a job, not a business, because they haven't built the systems in that business to make it a standalone economic engine. And my superpower is to help people understand how to move from the left side of the quadrant to the right side, because the left side is you exchanging your time for money. And it's what school teaches us to do, to be an employee or self-employed. And doctors, lawyers are all considered self-employed or small business owners. To move to the right side, you got to be a business owner and create those businesses, which are assets. My favorite word on earth, assets, belong on the right side of the quadrant.
Right.
They become your employees. They work for you. They're generating revenue for you even while you sleep. Your investments, which you help people create their family of investments and businesses that you own, assets. And you are financially free when the income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses. It does not have to be millions of dollars.
Right.
When I met Robert Kiyosaki, he had 2 small apartment complexes generating $100,000 of passive income a year. His living expenses were $30,000 to $35,000. He was financially free. That was the message that I was absolutely determined to share with the world, because we chase money instead of building assets that generate money.
Beautiful. That is so true. And I hope you guys are paying attention. That is so true. Now, if you could picture 4 squares and you have them stacked with 2 on the top, 2 under them, down the left side are the 2 she just talked about, where even if you start a business, it owns you. And so many mom and pop businesses are that way. Like if you're not there, it fails. That really is not the best quadrant to be in. Now, if you go to the right side, those 2, the top right, you have to learn the idea of leverage, where you earn off the efforts of many other people, or else it becomes just as bad as the one on the bottom of the left. But that's what that one's about. But the bottom right is about pure out investing, where your money makes the money. That's what TRADEway teaches. And I think that's the best one. But the one right above it's good too. If you can learn those business skills, how to duplicate yourself and others and then delegate to them, hugely powerful. We could do a whole show on that, couldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. And when you talk about leverage, I mean, other people's money, other people's time, other people's
brains.
Resources.
Yes.
And that's how we were able to explode Rich Dad around the globe, and as well as the Talking Book and Company, because we had a small staff, but we had companies all over the world that were paying us to be able to share our message. And that was the way we were able to duplicate ourselves around the globe.
Yeah, I tracked it. It was fabulous. Let me take just a second and tell our listeners this. If you go out to TRADEway.com and you look for one of our memberships called Trader Pro, this is so fantastic. It gives you access to learning the stock market from the ground floor. And then you move into options, which gives you financial leverage, because every dollar is worth maybe $7 to $14 of power when you learn that. I always joke about it, Sharon. I say, your congressman knows how to leverage like that. And your attorney probably knows how, but no one wants middle-class America to know how to do that. But you can learn. It's just skill sets. And it'll take you all the way into even higher strategies and options where you can combine your skill sets and so forth. So check out Trader Pro. Just go out to TRADEway.com. That's TRADEway.com. Look up the Trader Pro. Pray about that one, because it will help you to learn to take stock trading and options trading and turn that into your family business. You'll have fun having your children. Your children will be great at looking at charts, recognizing patterns, better than you probably. So include the whole family. I think you guys will love that if you'll take a look at it. Now, Sharon, you also go out and you help all different kinds of people that own different kinds of companies, and you get really specific into how to help their company be a better company? If you were going to give some general principles that would help almost any kind of company, what would come to the top of your mind there?
Well, thank you, David. Yes, I've had the luxury of the last 5 or 6 years. About 8 years ago, I lost my youngest son, and I kind of went into this neutral territory, kind of numbness, and I started to almost retire. And then when I made the decision that we all have things that stop us in our tracks, whether it be death, divorce, illness, a financial setback, but you're still here for a reason. And I think I heard my son is whispering in my ear, "Get over it, Mom. There's more for you to do." Mm-hmm. So I made the decision to get back in the game. I launched the Play Big movement on Facebook, which is free to join, because it talks about being number one in your field, living your legacy, because your legacy is created with every heart you touch every single day, and then creating maximum impact. And when I did that, I wanted to help people. So I started doing one-on-one mentoring and group mentoring. And it's really helped fill a little bit of the hole in my heart after losing my child.
Of course.
But I love it because I step into their world, into their business. And the proof of a mentor is as somebody who's been where you want to go. They can speed your success. They can help you steer around pitfalls, introduce you to their networks. And I absolutely love what I do. We have obviously a limited number of clients because when I do my mentoring, I'm back on the left side of the quadrant, but I'm over there because I choose to do that, because I want to help those individuals move to the right side. So we kind of grease the skids to get them over there. And it's really important to think about it, which is one of the reasons why I wrote the book Exit Rich, because it talks about, introduced the 6 Ps of building a strong business. And the first one is your people. Do you have a mentor? Do you have the right people on your team? Do you have the right advisors? Do you have people who are strong where you are weak? The second one is your product. What is it? What is the problem that you're solving? What is the need that you're serving? Clearly defining your product. And then the third one is processes and business systems. You cannot scale your business if you don't have your systems fine-tuned. Systems in promotion, systems in manufacturing, systems in collection. It's like as a human being, we have a heart that pumps our blood. We have lungs that pump our air. We are a body of systems. So is your business. And when you're the one interfering every day with this and not allowing the systems to run, you're actually stunting your growth.
Right.
So business processes is the next one. And then proprietary. And that's what makes you unique, your unique competitive advantage. What is it that you have? What intellectual property? Something that I love to identify for people. You all have it. Have you identified it? Have you protected it? Have you leveraged it? Because your intellectual property can be repackaged and generate multiple streams of income. So ask yourself, have I taken the steps to identify my intellectual property? And then your patrons. All right, your customers. Do you have the customer journey outlined for, I don't like the word funnels, customer journey for people that come into your system? And have you identified a way to bring them in? So many people today get so excited because they have 1 million followers on Instagram or 100,000 on Facebook, and that's all fine. But you don't own those names. They do. And they control how many of those followers actually see your content. So you need to invite them in. You want to, encourage them to come into your database so that increases the valuation of your company. So you have the people, you have your products, you have your processes, your business systems, you have your proprietary information, your intellectual property, your unique competitive advantage. Then you have your patrons, the people that are your raving fans that you can turn into marketing machines. And then you have your profits. And too many business owners focus on the product and the profits and don't build the infrastructure of the business to help elevate it. And so that's those 6 Ps is what I go into in my book, Exit Rich, and exitrichbook.com/buy. It's not out till June, but you can get the digital copy today through that website, because I want to make sure the information is available to anybody that needs it to help increase the value of your business and make it not just successful, but sustainable and scalable.
Say it again. Give us the way to find it.
exitrichbook.com/buy. exitrichbook.com/buy.
Excellent. That's a powerful book. Thank you for giving us an early rendition of it. I noticed there's another book you worked on. I don't remember what year, but it was something like pay your family first. And that's a great lesson for entrepreneurs that own their own business, because usually you pay all your employees, you pay your bills, you do this and nothing's left, and you keep doing that. Then if you have a bump in the business, you didn't lay aside enough for yourself to start over when you need to. So anyway, that's an awesome book. You just you're like a walking encyclopedia for a family that wants to move from a paycheck where they have no time freedom, they really don't have security either. They have no way to leverage wealth. You're the mind. You've got so much in your mind about how to do that. So I hope you guys will go out there and grab that book and then buy the book when it's out too. I'm certainly going to. So Sharon, that was awesome. Those general points of if we already own a business. But let's go back to you guys out there that don't own a business yet, but you're thinking about it. You're getting excited about thinking about it. And so, Sharon, what are a few of the qualities that you believe an entrepreneur has to have? And then a follow-up question, answer this one at the end. Can you develop those and learn them, or do you just have to be born with them?
Well, I think those are both great questions. And so, what I just discussed about with the book Exit Rich is also a tool for people to help them understand if they want to become an entrepreneur, the elements that they need to follow to do that, as well as if you want to just be an investor in somebody else's entrepreneurship endeavor. It's a great tool for you to assess whether or not they have put the things in place to be able to create a successful business that's scalable. And so when you're thinking about going into business, a couple things that I would say: do you have a family? What's your level of risk? And have you outlined how you want to solve that problem and serve that need? I have something called the personal success equation, David, is your passion and your talents. So my passion came from the anger that we weren't teaching kids about money in school. My talents were my years as a CPA, my years in publishing. I was able to combine that, but most of us stop there. And if you truly want to create entrepreneurial success, you have your passion, your talent, plus the power of association, surrounding yourself with the people that you need that are going to help accelerate your success. Having a mentor is very essential. And then taking action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We just don't do it. Plus F for faith, having confidence in yourself. Having confidence that what you're doing is needed and necessary, having confidence that you will succeed. A lot of people have something called imposter syndrome. They don't have that level of confidence they need. And so that's when I'm working with new clients. It's always usually the power of association they need the most work in, and that faith and that self-confidence. Too many times that F is not faith, it's fear. Right. Self-limiting beliefs, things that hold them back from taking action. So if you're thinking about it being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And so if you want to truly be successful as an entrepreneur, you're the captain of your ship, you're the CEO of your own life, but don't do it alone. Business is a team sport. So ask yourself, I have the passion, I have the talent. Do I have the right people around me? Okay, what's my action plan? And where's my faith level? Do I need to crank up my faith and confidence so that I can truly get started? Because when you're in the world of business, yes, you mentioned this earlier, you mistakes happen. And too many times when we have a mistake or a failure, we use it as a definition of who we are. It's not. Yes. It's part of the journey.
Right.
So a mistake or a failure is not a definition. It is an occurrence, something that teaches you so that you don't repeat it.
Very good. So important. And when you're talking about mentorship, one of the phrases I like to use is time compression. You've spent your life learning these things. I can spend a week going through your new book, and outlining it and really learning it. And in a week, I've learned what probably took you, in and out of different times of your life, 20 years to accumulate that knowledge, and I can gain it in a week. That's time compression. I don't have to make the mistakes you made in that arena. And or if you look at the stock market side, if you go out to TRADEway.com and pick up the Trader Pro, what you're learning are 30 years of trading experience I've had and mistakes I've made. In fact, when you see the rules that you're supposed to keep, where do you think those came from? Me losing money by doing it incorrectly. And so now it's a rule for you. You don't have to make that mistake. That's what mentorship is. And Sharon, you bring that up and you just talk about it and I talk about it, but people still won't believe in it. You know why? Because that's pride. We think, oh, I'm a self-built man or woman. I'm just going to go out and do this. And then I get all the credit. You'll never make it.
There's a survey that was like 77% of the people agree that mentors are good and valuable. Only 30% of people have them. So
isn't that something? Wow. That is amazing. But human nature, right? So you have to overcome that too. And listen, Myron Golden, we mentioned about him when we were chatting before we started the show today. Dr. Myron Golden, lifelong friend of mine. He was 19 when I met him. I was, already 20-something, married, running our family oil business. And he came to live with us for a while. And now he tells stories around the country that I was his mentor and that he learned how to deal with money by just watching me and Charlotte and how we lived and functioned and how money just seemed like a tool. It wasn't something we loved. It was a tool to get things done. And I didn't know he was watching me. But then what's funny is as he goes through his life, he learns all these skill sets of his own. And then one time, my daughter, Katie, and her husband, Dave, who actually run TRADEway, and I flew out to one of Myron's seminars, 4-day seminar, and he taught us in 4 days what it took him 20 years to accumulate this knowledge. We went back, Sharon, and turned a losing company to a multi-million-dollar company. That's time compression, because I was at an age where I didn't have 20 years to go learn that stuff at that point. So I hope you guys are paying attention. You need to build a team of people around you that can help you get there faster in your lifetime and have the potential to create wealth. Man, I wish we could go on. I wish our show was a 2-hour show, Sharon, but this has been so great. I hope we can get together again sometime for the benefit of our listeners. I hope you guys realize what you just got, a little piece of a mind that could sit and just share with you everything about how to be a successful entrepreneur. And Exit Rich, your new book coming out. Thank you for sharing that with us before it's even out. Wow, we'll take advantage of that.
Yeah, Steve Forbes says it's a gold mine for entrepreneurs.
Yes, I bet he does. So remind us one more time how to find it.
exitrichbook.com/buy.
That is so good. I got to sit with Steve Forbes on a plane flying to Italy not too long ago, and we talked about economics, about Italy in particular. Fascinating man. So he says your book is a great book. That's good. Very good. He's a smart man. I admire him. But I admire you, and I just want to thank you again for being on with us, and we will do this again soon, I hope. I just wish you continued success. I thank you so much for sharing with us all these things, even the loss of your youngest son and how I've got 5 grown children. They all work with me. I can't even comprehend that. But I know God gives grace when you need it for times like that. But then even that didn't make you quit. And you kept going. And, not being a quitter, perseverance, those are 2 of the key elements of an entrepreneur. And that speaks so much to me about you. So no telling what your next adventure is going to be. And I hope we can be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm honored to meet you, David. And congratulations on all your success and for what you're providing for families out there, because it is so important to work together. Your kids learn from you, show them the right way, and entrepreneurship is a fabulous way to teach your kids. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Well, guys, if you enjoyed our episode today, and I know you did, I hope you'll go out there and rate and review it. We want other people of like mind to find us. That'll help, and I think it could be a real help to them as well. In fact, if you'll do that today, if you'll rate and review this show, I'm going to give you free access to our incredible Word on Investing virtual summit coming up April 22nd through 24th. And you can get a free ticket to that if you'll just rate and review this show today. You're going to hear some of our incredible Season 2 guests like Dr. Myron Golden, who we were talking about earlier, Tom Sosnoff, and Sharon Lechter, who is just amazing, and many others. And you don't want to miss it. 3 value-packed days. Don't miss it. So just rate and review the show and go out to TRADEway.com and register for that summit. We'd love to have you there. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.